is John Cola with OKRod.com. I have another exciting episode for you. This is going to be a very special one at that. We're here all the way in Houston, Texas, at my friend Kyle's place, and I've been staying with Kyle for the last couple days, and we built up a great friendship. We originally met at the 2012 Woodstock Fruit Festival, and that was a great place to connect with a lot of people. I met so many people that I met there that I still stay in contact with today. So I came down to Houston, saw Kyle at the local Rawfully Organic Produce Co-op, and he said, "Hey John, you got a place to stay?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Well man, come on over, man. I got an extra bedroom and stuff." So we've been staying here, having fun, making juices. He's eating all his bananas. I don't like bananas too much, but he'll tell you more about that. But the thing I saw is that, this is all Kyle's produce, right? This is all your produce, right, Kyle?
Yep.
Like, how long will this last you?
I'd say, well, a week or so.
So this is This is a week's worth of Kyle's produce, and if you're eating a healthy diet, you're eating lots of fruits and vegetables. And one of the challenges that might come up is, not only getting the fruits and vegetables, which he goes to the co-op for and gets, but the second challenge is, once you eat it, and we're already eating like the healthiest diet on earth that's rich in fruits and vegetables, and it's also better for the planet because fruits and vegetables take far less inputs to grow and create 1 pound of food than, say, animal-based products. But finally, the challenge is, that's all good, but the challenge is once he's done eating this, he eats an insanely large amount of bananas, more than I would ever eat in my wildest dreams. And he gets all the peels and some of the jackfruit here, the outside rind and the seeds, and if he's juicing his oranges, he's got the rind, and a lot of the things like the tomatoes, he just eats them whole, but the carrots, he might, have all these greens, and he has a bin that we'll show you in a minute that he's actually been taking out to the garbage because some local municipalities have green waste composting like in California, but a lot of the other parts of the country do not. So he is actually just taking this out in just like a 35-pound bag a week, which is heavy. Fruit scraps are heavy. Out to the garbage, and they just go to the landfill. So I got the bright idea to get him on composting and getting a compost system set up. So what this video is specifically going to be about today is sourcing the best local composter for you, and not only that, at a good price and one that's really large, but getting it set up and working properly. Now the composter that we found for Kyle is available at a local store, and it's actually a quite low price for a large composter. But the main thing that's important to me is that it actually works, because Kyle has actually composted in the past, but it was a pain in the butt and stuff, and it didn't work for him. So why don't we ask him about that? So Kyle, tell me about your past composting experiences and what happened and all that good stuff.
Yeah, well, I lived down the street, and I was basically just making a pile in the corner of a garden, right in the back corner of the backyard, which was really only about 15 feet from the back door. And I just really didn't know what I was doing, and it just kept getting, bigger and bigger, and it wasn't breaking down fast enough, and and then I would go to dig around or stir it up, and it was disgusting. It was like the worst smell of my life. And so I'd say over a couple months, a lot of that broke down and turned back into into soil in there, but eventually I when I moved, I actually had to dig a lot of it out, just to clean it up for the property owner. And for a while I was taking stuff down to a local park where people compost, but I guess I just kind of got burnt out on packing it all up and driving it over there, and the time when they worked in the park on Wednesdays, I wasn't able to help out, so I felt bad because I was showing up with tons of stuff, and like filling up all of their containers. So anyway, I just kind of got out of the habit, and living right in the middle of the city, it can be challenging, but I think that what we've got going is going to be great.
Awesome, man. Yeah, so I've composted in my backyard when I didn't know anything about composting. I just put it all in a pile, and guess what? Compost happens. So even if you don't buy the thing we're going to show you in a little bit that gets it really dialed in, and probably one of the best ways to do it, you could start a pile in your backyard if you don't care about, it just rotting and maybe smelling bad. But there's certain methods and tips and techniques you need to do to get it to work properly, you also make it like, you know, attract rats and animals and things like that. So, you know, yeah, that's definitely not a good thing, especially you live in a, you know, a big city. So the way that we're going to do it now is like, you're not going to get any, you know, rodent issues or any animal issues because it's completely self-contained. So Kyle, before we actually go into show, you know, all some of the food scraps from, you know, some of this amazing produce you have, like, I want to ask you just a few other questions for my viewers there. So, you know, why did you first get into the plant-based raw foods diet?
Well, to be honest, I read the China study about 4.5 years ago, and you know, and did some other research, and really just sort of, you know, intuitively I was eating less meat and stuff because I wanted to be, you know, just light and fast and stuff because I like to run, and yeah, so I went ahead and just made the switch overnight. I just poured out the milk, threw out the eggs, and never looked back. So 4.5 years, you know, animal product free, and the best health of my life, and yeah, so that's why I made the initial switch. And then I found out about this local co-op because, you know, I was buying, you know, a lot more produce. I was making a smoothie here and there, and looking for ways to be able to afford it better, and found Roughly Organic here in Houston. And then I met more people that were eating raw and doing great, looking healthy and really happy, and just easygoing, good people, you know. And I thought, man, it's so much simpler. And you know, so even though I ended up, you know, I feel like I spend more money on food, I'm spending so much less than I used to because, you know, I make it at home and it's such high quality, and I'm not spending that money at a restaurant, driving to a restaurant, spending the time waiting in line, you know, etc., etc. So anyway, yeah, I got on eating the raw foods, and I guess I should include, like, you know, when I went vegan, I had been running a lot at that time, and I noticed that my running was, you know, improving, but once I went raw after a couple of years, it's just been getting better and better. So, and I kind of gauge it on my 5K times because I just run as fast as I can. And, you know, a few years ago, it was over 20 minutes. And then almost every time I race, I run a PR, like I improve on my time. And, you know, and so I dropped 2.5 minutes off that time. And, you know, I'm not like a hardcore runner. I train when I can, and I'm a pianist, and I teach, and I have, like, you know, a lot of other stuff. But I love pushing myself physically and being outdoors. And so anyway, yeah, just been getting faster and feel good, and it's great. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've just seen so many people, I met so many people that just get amazing results by just eating our natural diet. I mean, we're all conditioned to eat things that are totally unnatural because of marketing and stuff like that. So, you know, no matter what else you guys hear, I always want you guys to just include more fruits and vegetables. You don't have to eat all raw, or just eat one extra apple a day, and you're on your way to eating more fruits and vegetables so you could get healthier and get some improvement in athletic performance and just anything, brain performance, mental performance, by eating more plants and less of all the other processed and animal products. All right, Kyle, so thank you for sharing with me all your produce. I mean, just for 1 week. Next, let's take a look at some of the food scraps, and then we'll go into like how we're going to effectively deal with them in a quick and easy and the fastest way that I've learned how over all these years that I've been experimenting with raw foods and also dealing and working with my compost. Now what we're looking at is where Kyle used to put all his food scraps, because he'd keep it separate than the standard garbage can, because an open garbage can will attract things like the fruit flies and all this kind of stuff that's unsightly. So he had this little step-on can, which is kind of nice because you can step on it and it'll lift up. And as you can see, what we got in here today is actually what I juiced for breakfast. This is my juice pulp, and below this we got, actually he has tons of bananas. Looks like he had a banana feast this morning. For bananas though, we got some jackfruit peel from yesterday. But I mean, this little thing right here, wow, man, that's kind of heavy. That's maybe like 35, 40 pounds right there. So one of the challenges he'd have is, because he'd line this with a standard kitchen plastic bag, you try to lift it out, and let's see if we can lift this out successfully. And I've kind of like learned that you got to kind of wiggle it out, because otherwise it's going to tear and rip. All right, got it. And this is kind of a pain in the butt to lift it up. Alright, so this is a whole ton of compost, but now the problem is, what are we going to do with it? Like Kyle has been actually just dumping this in the garbage, and it gets taken out to the landfill and doesn't really benefit anybody. Plus there's the transportation cost, you know, for the fuel, that now the garbage truck is going to be 35 pounds heavier. And what if every raw foodist that lived on the block, which there's probably no other ones, did that? You know, that's like 35 pounds times 20 more people. That's like thousands of pounds extra going to the landfill. That's unneedingly, because a far better use to do with this stuff is to compost. And as you learned, Kyle used to just pile it up in the corner. What you could do, you could build a hole, you could dig a hole, dump it in the hole, cover up the hole. You could actually, you know, put it in your green waste recycling for your kitchen and yard clippings if you have that in your area. You could also do worm composting with it. But the way we're going to do today is something really smart. It's getting a tumbling composter. I've experimented with many different composting methods, and the tumbling composter is by far the easiest thing to do and can also be very fast, much faster than a static pile, in my opinion, if you do it just right. So what we're going to do now is actually we're going to go out to a local store that's probably around you to buy the kick-ass, low-price, large composter. This is a special place to get that compost tumbler. I know many of you guys may be Costco members. If not, you could join, become a member, and buy it, and then actually just say, oh, I want to cancel my membership, and they'll give you a full refund. So that way you could get in, or just find a friend with a Costco membership who could, you know, take you in there, and then you could actually buy it. Now be aware that they only accept like American Express, debit cards, or cash. So you can't use Visa or MasterCard. So now we're gonna head into Costco, and I'm gonna show you that special raw food certified approved composter to buy. Now we're inside the Costco, and this is where you get the composter that I was telling you guys about. Check it out. It's the Lifetime Dual Compost Tumbler, and the cool thing is the price. And the price is $149.99. Now if you go to the lifetime.com website, it's actually $299.99. So this is like half off. Now let me show you the composter, which is right here. This is the composter right here, and the reason why I recommend this for people into raw foods is because it is one large composter. I own the predecessor to this, which is a single bin 80-gallon composter. This is two 50-gallon bins. And why that's good is because as raw fooders, you guys hopefully eat a lot of produce and have a lot of banana peels and food scraps and citrus peels and, you know, trimmings from your lettuce and kales and whatnot. And this is the perfect thing to compost. And why this is cool is because it has two of them. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna basically come here and fill up one side with all your compost and keep filling this up every day, or whenever you take out your little 5-gallon bucket, you're gonna close it and spin it. That's it. Then go inside, fill up your bucket, bring it out again, you know, the next day, 2 days, 3 days from now, you know, open it up, put it in there, spin it. Keep doing this, and this is until this is all the way full. When it's all the way full, then basically you're gonna go to this one, and then you're gonna start filling it up. And once again, then you're gonna spin both of them. Keep filling that one up until you're totally done. And then by that time, this one, when you open it up, you should have compost that you can put into your garden. So we're gonna get this one because it has a 5-year warranty. Also, really cool about this is the HDPE plastic. So what does that mean? That's high density polyethylene plastic. That means it's UV resistant. It's not gonna break down in the sun. It's gonna last a long time. Plus it's double wall. So like if you have double pane windows, it keeps your house a bit warmer. This is double pane, so it has 2 walls, so it's gonna keep an air cushion in the middle. It's gonna keep your compost just that much warmer, so it works that much faster. This is important whether you're in the summertime or even the wintertime when it's a little bit colder out. Next thing we're gonna do is gonna go ahead and get one of these composters and check it out. Hey guys, caught me taking a break. We've been building this composter here. We're about 10 minutes into it. Actually, it's going together really easy. I have the predecessor model to this. It's significantly harder to assemble. So we're gonna go ahead and keep assembling, and I'm trying to stay ahead of Kyle because I'm pretty good assembling these kind of things because Kyle doesn't do it so much, but he's doing a great job over there. And now he's ahead of me, so I gotta get back to doing this, and we'll come back at you when we got more of it assembled. As you can see, we got these composters almost fully assembled. We got all the sides except for the top that actually hinges on, and now we're doing some internal bracing. Now it's taken us about 40 minutes to get to this point, and it's 2 of us. So he's working on that side, I'm working on this side, and it's just, I mean, it's really simple. Lining up some of these things is a little bit difficult, but just be persistent and you'll finally get it. All right, switch. So as you guys can see, night has fallen and we're finally done building this guy. It went together with pretty much no hitches, just got to read the directions, and it happened. Now it took about 2 hours with 2 people, so if you're a one-person job, it might take even a little bit longer, but we took our time to make sure that we did it right. And it's fully assembled, it went together really well, and it works really great. And stay tuned for the update with filling it up with some of those banana peels you saw earlier. So you guys saw that we finished the composter. That was actually last night, and now it's the next day. Now we're ready to fill it up. So besides the composter that you bought and the food scraps you'll need a few more things. Some things are mandatory and some of the other things are optional. So the mandatory thing you'll need besides your food scraps, you have to get these or else it's not going to work as good, is this stuff. Now I normally recommend horse bedding, which is available at a local feed store. It's basically compressed sawdust pine pellets used for horse bedding. This is non-toxic, they don't have any additives in there. If you can't get to a feed supply store, you know, because the horse bedding in the pellets is like 40 pounds for like $7-8. If you can't find a feed store in your area like the inner city, then you could go to your local Petco, Walmart, or you know, whatever those pet stores are, and you want to get this stuff right here. You want to get some kind of like kitty litter that's made out of the pine pellets. This is the exact same stuff that they use for horse bedding. So if you want to save money, you got cats, just get the horse bedding stuff. It's the same stuff. This stuff is like 40 pounds for $19.99 on sale. So the other stuff, $7.99 for 40 pounds. This is $19.99. So this is going to definitely cost you more. Now, if you do go and find a place that sells the horse bedding, it's usually like at a feed store. You know, buy a bunch of bags. Buy like 5 bags at once and make one trip, and that way you can save these bags. They'll store indefinitely, keep them out of the rain. Now, the reason why we need to use this is because when composting, you need what's called a nitrogen source and a carbon source. And the food scraps are nitrogen source. They don't have carbon. And if you have one and not the other, the composting is not going to happen as quickly. And, you know, it tends to actually rot, ferment, and get nasty, attract bugs before it starts to actually start breaking down. So some other carbon sources, if you actually don't want to buy the pellets here, you could use shredded up newspaper, shredded up paper. You could use like, you know, some leaves like on the ground here. You could use sawdust, things like that. But the reason why I'm using the pine pellets is because, you know, I want to get the fastest and quickest results, and I don't want to screw around. You know, the leaves will work, they'll definitely work, but I found that using the pine pellets, you know, what'll happen is it's going to work significantly faster. And also the pine pellets, because they are compressed, they're going to absorb a lot of the moisture from your food scraps, which are actually very moist. So in the compost pile, you need a balance of a couple things. Number one, you need a balance of carbon and nitrogen. You also need a balance of moist and not too moist. So the moisture levels, plus you need air. And that's all it takes to compost. If you have all those in the right proportions, compost is going to happen really fast. If you have some of those or not all of them in the non-right proportions, then it's going to happen slower, because remember one thing, compost always happens. So this by far for composting food scraps is the best thing I've found, instead of shredding paper, collecting leaves, because that could also be a pain in the butt. And if you're getting it by the 40 pounds for $7.99, that's not a big price to pay to make your own soil today in your composter, which is far better than any compost you can't buy. So this is required. Now the next few things I'm going to talk about are optional but highly recommended. The first stuff here we're going to add to our mixture, besides the food scraps and the pine pellets, is this stuff right here. This is actually some organic compost. So on this trip also I'm helping Kyle put in a nice raised bed garden, and we got some compost here from the local landscape supply place called The Ground Up. They weren't too friendly there, but we did get the stuff. And this is a good vegan-based compost, so that's really good. And why you want to add this to your mixture, like one little pot here per bin when you're starting, or once you got compost rolling, you're just going to take your old compost that's finished and then add that to your new batch. What this does is it pre-inoculates your compost pile with the right bacteria so it can start breaking down. Now, this is optional, because if you don't add this and you just put the food scraps in the carbon, it will break down, absolutely. But with this, it's kind of like a catalyst and will help it kind of get the ball rolling. And the other thing, remember, is that, you know, Kyle paid, it's like $70 for like 1 cubic yard of this stuff, and by the bag they sell this compost for $10 1 cubic or 2 cubic feet. So that's like $5 to $10 1 cubic feet. And when you make your own compost, I mean, if you're gardening, or you could give it to your friends, you're going to save a lot of money in the cost savings from the compost you're going to make, which in many ways is probably higher quality than the compost money can buy. So we got to add that. And finally, the last thing we're going to add, and not required but very important in my opinion, is this stuff here. You want to add the trace minerals. So this is actually a product called Mineral Plus that we got here in the Houston area, but I recommend using something like the azomite or Gaia Green Glacial Rock Dust or others, some kind of broad spectrum trace mineral supplementation to add to your compost. Now, why this is important is because this will basically add the trace minerals to the compost that's going to feed the bacteria. It makes the bacteria go crazy, so you get the best results. You know, as people that eat high plant-based diet and have a lot of food scraps, you know, you don't want to be sitting in food scraps, swimming them in your compost pile in your backyard that's not breaking down. So this is my specific formula. I have learned that really, if you do this right, your compost could happen probably within maybe like a month, maybe a month to a month and a half. We'll have one of these bins completely finished and you know, ready to turn out, and you know, keep rotating the bins. So yeah, don't forget the minerals there. The next thing we're going to talk about is the ratio. So we want to add 10% of the pine pellets to 90% of the food scraps to have 100%. Plus, then we're just going to add like a little scoop of the minerals and a little pot, 1 gallon of the compost. So let's go ahead and I guess add that to our bin next. First step, add the food scraps. And these bags are kind of a pain because they just will rip open on you. And there it is, 35 pounds of food scraps. And don't worry if it's a little bit wet. You know, you do need some moisture, but not too much moisture. And that's why the pine pellets are specifically, you know, good for composting wet food scraps. Now, before I go on, another really good method you can use besides a tumbling bin, and I like the tumbling bin once again because it aerates, it keeps it self-contained, no rodents. It also works faster than static piles that I've ever had in the past. You can also do worm composting, and that's if you want to keep pet worms. And that's, I don't know, could be easier, could be harder than this. I think it's a little bit harder because you got to keep some live worms, and you got to make sure you feed them appropriately. They eat 1 pound of waste for, you know, 1 pound of worms you have. So if you create 10 pounds of waste a day, you got to have 10 pounds of worms. And actually, worms love the juice pulp and whatnot. And then you got to make sure that it's not too hot for them outside, not too cold for them in the wintertime. It's kind of a pain. So that's why I like just this tumbling bin. It's just a lot easier, and you don't got to deal with the worms or anything like that. But worms are cool, and get some if you want them. So now that we added this stuff, we're going to add about 10% of the pine pellets. And I just like to take it and just toss a bunch in. Now, if you're going to air, it's always better to air on the side of a little bit too much pine pellets than too little. I don't know, so that looks about like 10% to me. The next step is add our trace mineral supplementation. This is gonna get the microbes happy because they love this stuff. Plus, the other benefit is that once you have the compost done, you've pre-inoculated your compost with trace minerals, so then when you grow your plants, they're gonna have the trace minerals in it, and then when the plants grow and you eat the plants that you're growing in your compost, you're gonna get the trace minerals in it, because soils of today are devoid of the trace minerals, you know, because the topsoils are eroded from constant and conventional farming and not putting these trace minerals back in it. So here's the trace minerals going right in, just shaking right in. And now finally we got to add the inoculant, the compost, which is going to help get this baby started. Now, you might be thinking, John, I seen that compost inoculant stuff you could buy at the nursery or the Home Depot. Should I buy that stuff? I'm like, no, don't waste your money on that stuff. Just get some fresh compost that's freshly composted, because this has everything you need and you don't have to buy any gimmicks like that. You just mainly need to buy this bin. Now, once you got that in there, you're just going to go ahead and close this up and spin it. And man, that'll be a pretty good workout. Now, it may be kind of heavy at first because like all the liquid is clumped up, but what'll happen is these pellets will expand and kind of make it more fluffy. And as it gets going, it's going to get a little bit lighter to spin. But this is definitely a good arm workout here. All right, so we've spun it a bunch, and let's check out what we got now. All right, this is how we're making our own compost here. Oh, One of the tips I want to give you guys, if you have like bad lettuces and bad cabbage leaves going bad, it's always best to tear up or make your compost the smallest size as possible before adding it to your compost. Now this is not required, and some of you girls might not want to get your hands dirty. You don't have to do this, but it's always best. I mean, if you want to be really anal, you could actually take everything you're composting, actually put it in the Vitamix, and then pour it in here. That'll even break down faster. The microbes, like food like we like food, right? We like food that's in its mush, baby food state that's been chewed really well. And same thing with the microbes. If we just swallow a whole piece of cabbage leaf here, we're not going to get the optimal digestion. And I mean, the bacteria will work on it and work on it. It'll take them longer, but they'll finally break it down. So yeah, it's best to tear this stuff up, or fractionate it, cut up into small pieces, and put smaller pieces in. And you can compost your paper towels. I recommend you guys use like non-bleach recycled paper towels. And if you're going to do the paper towels, once again, it's always best to tear them up. If you don't want to tear them up, because I know sometimes they might be nasty, what I like to do is I just like to add them and then take like a little small shovel and just kind of break them up a little bit. That'll help the composting to happen faster. So I guess the next thing we're going to do is Kyle's just going to come out whenever he has the food waste, dump it in here, and dump in some of the pine pellets and just spin it every day. And once this side is full, he's then just going to stop using this side, just keep it locked up, and he's going to continue to spin it every day, or when he comes out, to fill up the next side, which is empty. And the whole process should be like this. Fill up this whole side. Okay, it's full. Keep spinning it every day or whenever you fill up the other side. And while you're filling this side up, by the time this is full and you've been spinning this one continuously, when this one's full, you go to this side and you open it up, and you should have some nice compost ready. So the compost that you're going to make in your compost bin here is actually going to look like a nice kind of coffee grounds consistency. It's going to be rich in some of the pine pellets, plus also the decomposed matter. And you're going to fill this up to like, I don't know, I'd probably fill it up to here, like 80%, 90% full, and leave a little bit of airspace so that when you spin it, some of the air could still get in there. I mean, it has a nice air tube in the middle that'll aerate the compost, but it's very important to turn your compost. Another thing that's gonna be very cool, just in a few days, Kyle will be able to come out here and put his hand on the composter or open this up. Maybe it might even be steaming if it's getting hot. Now, that's a good sign that the composter's working. And if it's not steaming or getting at least warm, then maybe, one of the ratios is not right. He's adding too much nitrogen and not enough carbon in the form of the pine pellets. But normally, if you just do this, keep to this ratio, it's gonna work fairly well. The other thing you can get is a compost thermometer to kind of see where you're at, but if you can put your hand there and you feel some heat, it's definitely working. The system Kyle was using to collect his food scraps was really good, based on the fact that he wanted to take them out and throw them away, in the garbage, which I don't recommend. But as you can see, this bag was starting to break and it's hard to lift out and whatnot. But for composting, this would not be a good idea, because you would keep going through a lot of plastic bags that you'd have to end up throwing out, or hopefully even recycling. But it is kind of nasty to do that. So and also the thing is, all we're gonna do now to the compost, now that we added the minerals and the compost starter, we're just gonna add the food scraps and the pine pellets each and every time. So instead of having to add the pine pellets manually like I did this time in the bag, what I recommended to Kyle is get a whole new system for collecting his compost. And that's as simple as what we have right here. This is just a standard 5-gallon bucket. Now, he bought this at Home Depot, but if you go to like a deli or whatnot, they often have pickles that come in these and they just throw out the buckets. Or if you go to like a bakery, a lot of the icings and frosting that's so toxic actually comes in these things, and I get to read the ingredients in those. It's really nasty. But he just bought one, have a nice one that's nice and clean. And besides getting the bucket, you also want to get a lid. So we got a nice lid here, and the lid also has a little rubber gasket in here. This is very important because inside, you don't want, if you have an open bucket, you're gonna have fruit flies, hovering around. But if you put the lid on the bucket, has a nice rubber ring, you're gonna keep the fruit flies out. So now he's gonna collect his compost in the bucket. But besides collecting the compost in the bucket, what you have to do, and what I recommend, is actually taking some of the pine pellets, and because we have to mix the pine pellets with the compost, just put in like 10% of the pine pellets in the bucket. Now we got 10% of the pine pellets in the bucket. Now why this is good is because number one, this pre-mixes the pine pellets. So now all you gotta do is fill this up to the top, bring it out and dump it and spin it. Then you're gonna just come in and put more pine pellets in and then just keep filling it up. So really easy. That's all you need to do now is fill this up, put pine pellets, dump, spin, repeat until it's full, and then you're gonna move the other side. When you move the other side, then you're gonna inoculate it with 1 cup of the minerals and some of the compost. And the other reason why this is easy because it's premixed, but also the pine pellets, these guys absorb at least their weight in water. You'll see, like, you'll put in like wet, mushy banana peels or like, I don't know, strawberries that have gone bad and stuff. And instead of all the water and stuff leaking out of the fruits and getting on the bottom of the can and making the can nasty, the pine pellets will absorb it, so it'll also keep the bottom of your bucket cleaner. I mean, I'm not saying you don't have to ever wash this out, but you should still wash it out, but it'll keep it a lot cleaner than getting stuff crusted on the bottom because we got the pine pellets in here. And then, that's pretty much how easy it is. He's just gonna continue to fill this up, keep spinning it. In about a month and a half, he should have some compost, provided, he does it right, and you can too. So once again, we got the Lifetime Composter. It's $149.99 at Costco. This guy holds like 100 gallons, which is actually quite large. If you do want the better one, this is probably the most affordable, largest one you can get locally. The better one I have been using in my home is called the Juraform Composter, and that one's actually a 70-gallon for $369, but it's significantly more money and holds less. Or you can get the Juraform 400, which is like $700, which is, better, but is it twice as good as this or 3 times as good because it's 3 times the price? I'd say not, but if you're really into composting and want it to happen even faster than this because the other one's insulated, it's metal, it's gonna last a lifetime, you wanna get that one. But for the budget-minded person that just wants to start composting, I think this is probably one of the best deals out there. Hopefully after this episode, you'll now be a prepared raw foodist, being able to compost your waste instead of putting in the garbage in the landfill and wasting your precious resource. Because another thing I want you guys to do as raw foodists is to start growing your own food. Food that you grow, especially if it's in your own compost, comes nowhere close to the quality of organics. I mean, that's far substandard compared to the stuff you could grow in your garden, pick fresh, put right in your mouth, pick fresh, put in your juicer, and it just tastes so great too. And that truly is the end game to raw foods, in my opinion, is growing all your own food in your own compost and your own waste. So as you guys can see, we got the composter set up, and I'm happy Kyle bought the composter and let me set him up on how to do this. And you have any last words there, Kyle?
Yeah, I had a lot of money before John showed up a few days ago.
Yeah, don't let me stay at your house because you might be putting in gardens and start composting your stuff. But
it's an investment I'm so happy to make, and I'm just ecstatic about having a garden and being able to compost and stuff. So that's awesome.
I mean, having a garden, making your own compost is, like, in my opinion, one of the best investments you can make because it's an investment in something that's priceless. It's your health. I mean, we are the quality of the food we eat. Even if you're buying food from the co-op and get organic food, it's always better to grow your own. If you ask anybody, I mean, homegrown is always the best, especially if you grow in nutrient-dense soil. Like I've set Kyle up here to make his own high-quality compost, and also, check my other channel, growingyourgreens.com, for the video on how we set up a crate garden out of just standard plastic crates. Kyle, so if somebody wants to learn more about your work and what you do, I know you're a runner and stuff, and you like to really kick some butt running. How can somebody get a hold of you and learn more about what you do?
Well, you can just follow me at Tangelo Runner on Facebook, and I sort of post updates on my races. I'm going to be doing a lot of races this season, and I've been more into marathons the last few months, and now I'm going to do a lot short, fun, fast races.
All right, sounds good, man. Well, all you got to do now, like we showed the people in the video, is all you got to do is come out, fill this small bucket up with 10%, fill this all the way up with your food scraps, dump it, spin it, and compost.
Cool. Thanks, John.
All right, man. I'm glad I could set you up, Kyle. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, setting up Kyle with his composter. Hopefully you too will also be inspired to go down to Costco, get some pine pellets, and start composting your own food scraps so that you can use in your garden. If you don't garden yet, that's all right. Give the compost to your friends that do garden, because I know you must have other people into the plant-based diet that do garden, because You know, there's so many of us out there, and we're all starting gardens, or even people that don't eat plant-based. Just give them your compost. It's plant-based. Give them a message, because unfortunately, most, compost are animal-based manures, which I'm not a big fan of. So, anyways, once again, this is John Colin with OKRaw.com. We'll see you next time, and remember, keep eating your fresh fruits and vegetables. They're the best.
You guys are like...
So now we're having fun in these. These are great play toys, but if your kids do not attempt this at home, it can be quite dangerous. All right, 1, 2, 3.